Well, good morning. The thing I would like to speak to the one about this day. I'm wearing my blue blocker lenses here. That's what these glasses are. They're non-prescription, but they are from an optometrist store, and they have a special coating on the lenses. They're just 1.0, no magnification, and they're said to be blue blocker lenses, so they reduce eye strain at the computer screen, the Chromebook screen, the tablet screen, whatever screen it happens to be. And so what we're talking about this day is a condition in architectural engineering and what's said to be the true quality of the master and the apprentice, and sometimes an instance is important to be stated about one thing and another. Well, as it was, the one was working on a school project many years ago for the state of California, as it was. And from one classroom building to another in the so-called hallway, which wasn't a hallway, but the egress way outside, was a portion of roof that spanned from one building to another. And I don't know what the span was. It was 20 feet or it was 30 feet. I don't know what it was. And the apprentice decided to put in a triangular truss from the one building to another on one side so that people could walk under the thing. He didn't put just a beam, wouldn't have flat the roof entirely, had some slope to it. But in the front, in the entry, in the egress from one building to another, was stated to be a truss. And he didn't design the truss initially for any lateral loading that could occur. He only designed the truss for the gravity loading that could occur. And so it came time for review by the Austin State architect and the structural engineer of record. And the structural engineer of record said, well, I want you to take these strappings that are on one side and another, connecting the two buildings, and not have that be there. His initial decision, the structural engineer, was to have the strapping there to connect the buildings together. And so that he wanted to, I guess, disconnect those so that the truss itself wouldn't have to take any lateral loading according to the original design. So what was the life safety concern? Well, the life safety concern was that the individual and the group also, both the structural engineer and the apprentice, who was a civil engineer at the time, decided that they would have a truss there and have some roof there because they wanted the space to be covered so students didn't have to be in the rain at that location. But they also wanted the roof not to be collapsing upon the students. So the structural engineer's vacillation was connect the buildings together or not. And for the truss design that the apprentice had done, it wasn't designed for any lateral loading according to at least this day's bring back about so many decades after the fact. It hasn't fallen yet to this date. And so as it is, then the one said, then being the apprentice, according to his own knowledge, based on all the things that he was discussing together with other people to that time, he said, no, I'm not going to take those strappings out. I'm going to leave them in there, tying the two buildings together and letting that truss take whatever lateral force from the condition strutting the two buildings together. That was his individual decision, being the apprentice of the structural engineer. So were the straps ever put in? He has no idea. He wasn't at the construction site during that process to see whether they were going to be putting straps in or they weren't. It could have been the structural engineer looked at the draft and said, well, he must have forgotten to take those straps out. And who knows what the drafting state, the construction documents this very day. I have no idea because I wasn't there through that construction time range. It could be that the straps were taken out as the structural engineer might have thought was the proper thing to do. But what was the true quality of that condition and the knowledge that the ones have about the right and wrong condition that could occur? Well, there's two things to consider in that particular quality. If the truss takes some lateral loading because of the pre-1973 condition, all the designers who were developing the code said, tie the two buildings together. That's what you want to do. You want to make sure all the elements are tied together, because that's the thing that provides the better safety. And when you do that and you didn't have an element that was designed to resist lateral loading as a strut or something, such as that truss would have been if the thing was tied together, then you say there's the factor of safety that occur in the element design. It's at least a factor of safety of 2 for that condition, that the element design can take twice the loading that was designed for and still be adequate for the condition. And so when you tie those elements together, then that factor of safety works for you to your advantage. But there is the risk, because the element wasn't designed for that condition, that the element could fail. And what would happen in that condition? The roof would collapse upon then the students that happen to be at that location. A very sad thing if it would occur. But the decision of the apprentice was to tie the building together according to that old wisdom, tie the buildings together, like the redundancy, and you have some trust in the factor of safety in the design of the original elements, a factor of safety at least of 2 that happen to occur. So what would be the condition otherwise in that condition? We talk about ethics class and what's to be getting the job done in a timely manner, because he didn't have forever to do so. And at the time, the one didn't have even the knowledge to state from his own individual study and design that it was to be a condition in not tying the building together. Because in not tying the building together, then it was tied together on the sides and maybe in the back or something, then you would say that that would work, that particular element might work in torsion. And even though there wouldn't be any tension and compression added to the element, there would be a larger torsional force that could occur to that truss element. And it was a truss element made out of tree part. And what was tree part good in torsion? Hardly anything at all. And so if torsion did occur and that tree part element was put into torsion, then in that way it could have been a much lesser force that the truss might take. But did the ones know at all which was the governing condition? No, the one didn't do the analysis in deformation, one derivation and another, to state that the one knew what the condition was. But if an element does take torsion, one says it's not very much torsion that has the element being put into failure. And so in tying the buildings together in such the way that it was, the torsional condition at that location would have been reduced, but neither one knew from their own individual study about that particular geometry what the deformation was going to be. In torsion, the condition is in the loading is something like 15%. If you had the condition in the torsion that you'd say that the allowable tension and compression in bending, because there was torsion added to it, would be no more than 15% what it would be with no torsion at all. And that's not a factor of safety of 2 provided in the other condition. So once again, the apprentice didn't take the straps. They said, I want those tied together. As the structural engineer said originally, I'm not going to go with his second choice in that condition because the truss was not designed for torsion. It was not designed actually not for torsion, which it wasn't, but it was not designed to be a strut in lateral load resistance from one particular quality to another. So the one stated then the quality in ethic, we already know the truest ethic when you got plenty of time, decade upon decade, century upon century, to have something be right And that's to have each and every line item, verse if you thought so, but it is saying to be section and subsection in the code to state that that particular element, without any doubt at all, has its factor of safety. But one only has a couple of months to design the thing, and the one didn't even have the educational process to state the condition that was supposed to occur according to that condition, then the one said the one did the best that the one could based at the time to get the thing done at a timely manner at that time for what's said to be the cash that the people had to spend on that particular project at that time. So at this time, the thing is not said to be fallen. It's still safe for the day and year condition it's occurring. And what could occur? A modification could be done by a largely qualified structural engineer that knew how to calculate the deformation of all those elements, that he could compare then in his analysis the condition not tying the buildings together versus tying the buildings together, and who knows how many years it might take him to do so, and to have then what's said to be the better qualified solution. It's not too late. And the better qualified solution could be found, but what has to happen for the ethic and moral of the people, they have to say that they want that additional assurance in life safety to spend that cash, to have the large coefficient proficient structural engineer do his deformation analysis, one derivation and another, and then to provide the true solution that he knows is already tried and true according to the code condition that apply. That's what people talk about in every day in their life, and that's this particular instance in that, the trust for the state school building as it was in California, and the ones decide for themselves, well, what is the true moral and ethic of the people of our nation for the quality that they have a liking in their pursuit of happiness. Well, that's this time. Another record by Squeaky Clean.